Got it.
There you go.
Okay. Screen is now shared. And I'm going to go into slideshow mode, hopefully. If I can get that thing to get out of the way. There we go. Slideshow. From the beginning. Hot damn. Field Day. It's coming up this month. This is the big deal. This is the logo for this year for the Field Day presentation. And if I can find my buttons here. What is Field Day? Field Day is an annual, I'm going to read these to you. I'm sorry. I'm still a little out of it. I only got over jet lag about 2 days ago. Field Day is an annual amateur radio exercise sponsored by the ARRL and the RAC. It's got a history, which I'm going to go into for a little bit, and I will go through that. People think it's a contest. It's to get people interested in participating. They put a contest side to it, but no awards or certificates or acknowledgments given out. But that's how you report it, as if you're contesting in several ways. That's how you report your responses back to the ARRL. Why is it important? This I feel strongly about. It's an event in the event of a regional or national emergency, the same groups who participate in Field Day will be able to set up nets and pass traffic regionally or nationally. This is so important for emergency training. To be able to make connections and pass traffic. Now, we don't practice much traffic passing. Actually, virtually no traffic is passed during Field Day, but at least it shows that we can connect to stations and pass things on. Howard's got a Field Day t-shirt from from 2 years ago. That was a great Field Day because it was after basically no Field Day in 2020. 2021 was a big relief. They're expecting over 40,000 people this year to participate in Field Day across the United States and Canada, and also there'll be some in Mexico and various other countries around the world. Although the other countries around the world are not officially participants, they can and are contacted. When is Field Day? It's always the fourth full weekend, or the other way to say it is, it's the fourth Saturday in June is when Field Day is. It always starts at 1800 hours UTC on Saturday and ends at 2100 hours UTC on Sunday. Big caveat to that. You can only work the last 3 hours if you didn't start setting up before 1800 on Saturday. Everybody sets up starting before 1800 hours on Saturday, so everybody works for 24 hours and calls it a day. And usually after 24 hours, you're tired and want to go home or do other things besides be on Field Day. So it's basically on California time, it's 11 a.m. Saturday morning to 11 a.m. Sunday morning, and that'll be starting on Saturday, the 24th of June. Field Day was held at first in 1933. And ran for 27 hours, trying to get people with portable radios into the field. In 1933, there were not a lot of what you'd call portable radios. The emphasis has always been towards groups and clubs for Field Day. The highest number of contacts made in 1933 was 98 over 27 hours. Many organizations will do that in less than an hour during Field Day these days. The ID system they used for Field Day back in being portable in 1933 was really archaic, and of course everybody was using CW because there really wasn't much in the way of sideband, and there was certainly no FM at that time. Scoring is adjusted and changed each year to try and balance it out against the big guns and versus big stations that have overly high advantages and such over other groups. There was no Field Day from 1942 to 1945 because of World War II. Amateur radio was shut down during that same period. That's what happens during wartime. They shut down amateur radio. 46 saw Field Day come back, as well as a major jump in amateur radio. I've talked to a lot of people about this over the years, and the big theory of how amateur radio took a huge spike starting in 1946 is a lot of people had been taken into the military, trained in electronics and radios. They were discharged, they had all this knowledge, and there were tons of surplus radios out there that these guys had learned to work on. So they went out and bought it and became hams. That's why there was that's the most logical reasoning why there was a huge spike in amateur radio starting in 1946 up into the early 50s. It was a lot of people who had military training putting that training to use. Field Day today is meant to promote operating under emergency or field conditions, and to learn how to run independently from commercial electric power, and how to survive in camp-like situations for food, water, sleeping, sanitation, all that good stuff. They've added some goals to Field Day over the recent years. They want you to operate, if possible, from a public place and to publicize the event locally. Try to have educational programs, pass message traffic, use several different modes of communications, not just shortwave, not just I can't talk, forgive me, not just CW or sideband, and to also involve local government and the public. Okay, don't try to read this slide. You will go blind trying to read this slide. These are the different operating categories for Field Day, and Class A is what pertains to clubs. I've got a much simpler version of that slide next. Basically, Class A in a nutshell is a group of 3 or more people set up specifically for Field Day. You can't set up in a regular station location, no permanent equipment or facilities. All equipment, including antennas, must lie within a 1,000-foot diameter circle. Excuse me, and all contacts must be made with transmitters and receivers operating independent of commercial power. That's what Class A is all about. Those things. There's a few variations on that, but that's the primary thing for Class A, and that's what you'll find clubs and big groups running under. Class B is if 1 or 2 of you get together, operating portable, and no more than those 2 people operate. Class C is if you're mobile. I don't know of anybody who's run Class C, but it's when you set up a station in a boat or a car or even an airplane and operate that way. D is what a lot of people operate, which is your home station, operating using commercial power in your house just like you would normally. There's been a change to the rules since COVID. It used to be that Class D stations could not trade contacts with each other. Now Class D stations can trade contacts with other Class D stations. That gives them a lot more opportunity to make contacts. Class E is if you're in a home situation again, but you're using emergency power for all your equipment. For example, you've got it set up where you're using a battery, solar panels, or a motor generator. And Class E can also work all Field Day stations. There used to be some limitations on that. Class F is those lucky people who are connected with an emergency operations center and can set up their amateur radio equipment there and use their permanent antennas and their emergency power system. There are very few stations that operate in Class F, but it is there. I'd love to try it sometime. Instead of sitting outside freezing to death in the middle of the night, to be sitting in a nice warm office someplace with a sheriff's office out in front of you, protecting you and keeping you and serving coffee and that type of thing. The operating modes are real simple. It's phone, which is either single sideband or FM voice, CW for Morse code, or any of the digital modes. The most popular ones are shown here, but there's a lot of other semi-popular digital modes, although these are the ones where you're going to make the most contacts. Every time you make a phone contact, it counts as 1 point. If you make a CW contact, you get 2 points for that contact. And if you make an FT8 contact or any other digital mode contact, you get 2 points. And there's power multipliers, and they've changed the power requirements a little bit this year. Power output for Class A, B, and C cannot go over 500 watts peak envelope power on the transmitter output. And for the other stations, they can't exceed 100 watts for peak envelope power. That's new this year. You used to be able to go up to the legal max, but they have now cut that down for field day. Now, if your power output is 5 watts or less using batteries, solar, but no motor generators or commercial power, you multiply that 1 or 2 points you got for your contact mode by 5. If your power output is more than 5 watts, but not using emergency power, you get 2 points. You multiply that by 2. So if you made a CW contact, you get 4 points. If you did it up in 5 watts or less using non-commercial or motor power, you'd have 10 points. Power output of less than 150 watts using emergency power, you multiply that by 2. And if you go over 150 watts, you don't get anything. You multiply by 1. You have an exchange for field day when you're making a contact. You're going to trade call signs, your station class, and your ARRL section. For example, Amador Club would exchange K6ARC as the call sign. If they were operating 2 transmitters on emergency power, the category would be 2 alpha, and SV for Sacramento Valley. I remembered our division finally. Sacramento Valley on that. You want to log your contacts, and you want to know the band that you're operating on, obviously, the date and time that you make the contact, the call sign you are connecting to, the mode you're using, the category that person is in. They'll give you that information, and what section they're in for each contact you make. And this is a log showing some contacts made. These are from last year at another club. And you'll notice that there's 3 transmitters operating at this time, because one was operating CW, one was operating phone, and another was in a digital mode. And it shows the information in the right 3 columns, which is in a little darker background, shows the information you have to get from the contacting station. The other information, you know what band you're operating on, you know what mode you're operating on, and you know what time it is right then and there. So you have to collect those other 3 items from the other station you're contacting. Has anybody got any questions, or have I totally lost you all?
I did have a question about the power thing. It seems like the power thing, I think you might have an error on that slide.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Because it says ×2. Yeah, go back. Yeah, the middle one says power output of 5 watts or less using emergency power ×2. And it also says power output of less than 150 watts using emergency, the same multiplier. There must be some condition that's not mentioned in here.
Yeah, I cut that out from there. I think they're basically saying emergency power versus motor. For example, if you're using putting out 5 watts, but you're not using batteries or non-renewables, things like a motor generator at 5 watts, you're still only entitled to a 2 times multiplier.
Yeah, there used to be a special 100-point bonus or something for making at least 5 contacts on emergency power that was not patrolling.
Right, and that still exists. You can make 5 contacts and get 10
Because I always did that, because I generally always use solar for.
Yeah. Well, my club in San Mateo has a small generator that they fire up with ethyl alcohol, and that's how they make 5 to 10 contacts with that, and that makes that 100 power, because it's not petroleum based.
Wow. All right. Anyway,
go
ahead.
Okay, let's go back over here. Logging. You need to log all your contacts. Computer logging makes the most sense, because it'll let you know if you're making a duplicate contact on a band and mode, because you can contact the same station on the same band 3 times if you use a different mode each time. So you have to contact them on phone once, on CW once, and on digital once. And if you do that on each of the bands, you can contact one person and make a lot of contacts. But you have to do it on different. It has to be a different mode and band every time or band the same at the going through. You can't make the same contacts with multiple contacts on the same mode and band.
Yeah,
the
and
same station.
the software will figure that out.
If you're using software, yeah, there's a couple of good programs out there that'll do that. There is a go to station, which some clubs will set up, and so that the public can come in. They'll have a control operator on it who will coach them and show them how to make a contact, and let them make a contact or 2 or 5 or 10, which those count as contact points, but it's made under a separate call sign. I'm not going to go into that right now because I don't think anybody's going to want to do that on their own. In fact, you're not eligible unless you're in category A or B, I believe, are the only ones that can. Oh, and F can also have a go to station, I think. But it's something to watch for if you want to get on the air and you're not sure. You can, if you find a station that has a go to, you can go there and they'll give you a chance to work. However, if you are licensed and you have had your license for over a year, you are not eligible to work on a go to station. I'm not, again, don't try to read this. These are all the ways you can get bonus points. Most of them are 100 or 100 for every time it happens. One of the hardest ones in here to get is a satellite QSO, because everybody's trying to get 100 points making a satellite QSO, and it's tough. There's a lot of the number 8
I have
is
a pair of satellite antennas if somebody wants to try that. That have actually made a field day contact. I mean, I believe one field day contact has actually been made on that antenna, which is why I bought them originally in 1992. But I still have them. So
I'll bet they're Arrow antennas too.
No, they're the giant crossed Yagi antennas. Like, I have them disassembled in my shop right now. They're up in the ceiling.
Ah, okay. As I've got one of the handheld dual band Yagis from Arrow.
I have one of those laying around too. Yeah, but
yeah.
No, the big ones this was for AO17, right? Like, we made a contact on AO17 when that was hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, these are a lot of the things, and the way you can get bonus points, and some of them are restricted to certain categories, some of them are open to everybody. And if you're interested in participating in Field Day, I strongly recommend you go to the ARRL website, download the complete Field Day package. There's also questions and answers. There's all kinds of information that will help you make Field Day a viable thing for you. It's not as overwhelming as it first looks at. Submitting your logs is not as difficult as it may first appear. But if nothing else, skim through it and get an idea of what's going on. Field Day can be done on a single person basis, or it can be done on a club basis. I will be down in the Bay Area again this year for Field Day, and I will be with a group of it'll vary between 20 and 30 people throughout the 24-hour period. Actually, there'll probably be a few more there for setup and takedown.
Which club are you going to?
I'm going to be with San Mateo Radio Club again this year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good club. They do a good job.
They do a very good job. It's really interesting. The PARA group, the Palo Alto Amateur Radio Association, used to look like a military operation the way they set up their site out at the dump there in Menlo. No, it's Menlo Park, and right
Menlo
by the
Park. It's the end of that causeway across from Facebook.
Yeah. Apparently that club has, since COVID, has basically fallen into nothing.
Really?
I was shocked to hear that, but apparently they never got their act together after COVID hit them, and now they do. Just a few guys get together and have a small field day, and that's it. I don't think they even set up the site anymore.
Wow, because I remember going to that site when they were like 7. I think they had 7. They were 7A, 7 Alpha, I think.
The biggest I remember them was 4 Alpha, but I mean they had 7,500 people out there supporting the stations, and if you weren't making your quota, they pulled you off the radio and stuck somebody else on. They were really into it for the contesting side of it. Yeah. And apparently that's all gone from what I've been told. I haven't got firsthand of that. That's all secondhand to me. So you should go down there and see if they're doing anything out there. I should, but I'm going to be too busy running our station or working with our station.
Because I used to go with the Pacifica Club, WA6TOW.
I know them well.
And we used to do it at the Portola Discovery site up on the top of the ridge, which was a great for 2 meters at UHF, right?
Oh yeah, I mean,
and so we had two HF antennas and a VHF UHF station up there.
yeah.
So we did field day like every year, and it was completely solar powered too, because I used to own the solar panels they used.
Yeah, I can actually on most nights after dark, I can actually hit WA6TOW from repeater from my house right here.
I can do that here, yeah. So anyway, we used to do field day down there all the time, and usually I would do setup and then like operate for a couple hours and then go away during the day and then come back and operate at night, because I always wanted to get on 75 at night. And so we would often wander down to the Parasite and make a few contacts in Para while we were there.
Yeah, it's Para was an interesting club. I was a member for a few years, and it was a club. They claimed to be the friendliest club around, and I found them to be very standoffish. And if you hadn't been around for 20 years, they didn't want to talk to you, which is a real shame, because they used to have great door prizes.
I gave a few presentations at Para actually at different times. I was a speaker at their club a couple of times when I was down there. So anyway, thanks for all that great information about field day. I'm going to be doing a field day on my porch right behind here. And the only thing that we have not, like if people from the club want to come and operate, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my radio and stick it out there on the deck. I have a little more work to do on my staircase to get onto the deck, but that'll be done by then. What I did the couple of years ago, we did this actually. I set a radio up there, and we used a couple of antennas. I have a tripod for my 10, 15, 20 meter beam. And if we have at least 3 people here in the morning, we can set that up, because it takes 3 people to set that antenna up. It's the same one we set up in the Walmart parking lot when we did field day down there. I only have one of those tripod masts, so that's going to be the only antenna for this field day. I do have a 75 meter long wire that's in the trees, but I don't think we can actually use that for field day, because it's
not 30 meters.
No, 75 meters.
Oh, 75.
I have an antenna that's my home station antenna, but I don't think we can actually use that for field day.
No, because it's permanently set up.
Because it's been there before. But the other antenna is in a pile of aluminum beside my shop, so we can set that one up on Saturday, and it's a legal field day antenna.
Yep.
And we've used it for field day before. So if people want to come over here Saturday morning on field day and like sit out there and drink beer and operate radios, there will be at least one radio to do that with. And 10, 15, 20 should be really good this field day.
Yeah, the bands have improved the last couple of years so much.
Should be really, unless there's like a wipeout or something. I think last year there was a big solar storm like right during field day or something. But until you can't tell that's going to happen until beforehand. But if people want to come over here and sit around and operate radios, there will be a place to do that.
One of my favorite times during field day is probably starting between 11 and midnight on Saturday night going into Sunday morning. I love to get on 80 meters and just hunt, search and destroy on 80 meters sideband.
That is my favorite way to operate there, and operating like 15 when it opens in the morning. I had my biggest field day pileup ever at like 6:30 a.m. on 15 meters, because we had a 40 meter antenna at the Paris or at the TOW site, and I was there at like 6:30 in the morning, and I just said, "Oh, let me fire up 15, see if it's working." Right, and it was like I got on there, and like I think I made 150 contacts in like 20 minutes or something. It was ridiculous.
That's really nice. I know one year, the year that was supposed to be nothing happening, I sat down after dinner. It was maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock. It wasn't even dark yet, and fired up 6 meters sideband. And I was hitting into Arizona and Colorado and Utah, and they couldn't believe it. It only lasted for about 15 minutes, but I was making contacts on 6 meters, and I was just blown away. And it went away as fast as it came on. But
I do have a 6-meter beam, actually.
If you can set it up, do so, because the 6 meters is the magic band. Anything can happen there.
My problem is I don't have anything to mount it on, because I have my second military tripod is over there being a GMRS repeater. And the tower is being built that's going to replace that. But they're not done with it yet. So my guess is by the 24th, they won't have moved the antenna over there, so I can get my tripod back. I was kind of thinking that'd be done by now, but they had a lot of trouble digging the hole in the ground, because they ran into the lava cap and they had to dig a hole through that. It took them weeks to figure it out.
Okay.
And they have now figured that out, so they're going to pour concrete on Friday, but I don't think the tower will actually be up and serviceable by the 24th.
Howard, have you been working HF lately? Unmute yourself.
Unmute.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been working HF.
How are the bands looking?
I've been working into almost everywhere. You know, Italy, France, Germany, UK, Spain, down under, few islands in the Pacific. So yeah, I mean, it's sometimes pretty good. They had a good opening on 6 meters about a week ago, mostly north-south. And I guess I worked half a dozen stations in 45 minutes. So yeah, I mean, it's been, I have 6-meter capability here. When we had field day in 2021, Joe had a station, he had his tripod up, we got all that set up. And then I had a station on UHF, VHF, and
that was Walmart, right?
No, that was at Zion.
Oh, right. There was that was when we did it over there.
Yeah, and we had quite a few operators, a few guest operators, some scouts. So
K7Y came over and made a crap load of CW contacts.
Yeah, he did. And actually we had 2 HF stations, and then I had the VHF, UHF, and Joe was the tripod for 440. And we made a few
pointing the antenna at stations.
Yeah, well, he was the rotor and the tripod all in one. So
hold the antenna and point it at
we made a few stations contact. So the only thing that didn't work out is that we didn't get the log submitted, which would have been nice, but there was some difficulty getting it handled, and so it didn't get done. And
yes, I'm doing that myself this time. So we will have logging with PCs.
ARRL, and
we will have logging PCs and software.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that was the only disappointment. It was very hot, in 2021. We drank about 3 cases of water.
Yeah, above Mount Zion, it was pretty hot. Yeah.
It was warm. We had some pop-ups, but it was still warm. We had a nice lunch. I'd say it was a pretty successful field day, but it was a lot of work, and there weren't too many bodies to really help tear down, and tear down particularly was a little weak.
Well, that's one of the advantages of doing it in my backyard is I actually kind of want the 10, 20, 15, 20 meter up on a tripod, so we can just leave it there.
That's good.
It's my yard. Right.
Well, I'm thinking I'm going to try to come up, Joe. Yeah, I'd like to come up.
But we need at least 3 people in here in the morning to put that antenna up.
That's true.
It's I have a few extra segments, so we might be able to make it a little higher than we did last time too, but I don't know. It's possible we might be able to put a rotor in it because I have a rotor that's on another antenna that I might be able to,
Oh, okay. Yeah, worked pretty good.
I might be
mean,
able to channel the
Worked
other.
good the time before, you know, we kind of faced it out toward the middle of the country, and we worked a lot of stations.
Yeah, it's a big difference. Having the directional antenna is like, even though it's, you know, it's kind of a beat up antenna, but it works so much better than just having a wire.
Absolutely.
Yep. Now, anybody else out there? I see some puzzled looks. I see some people that aren't sure. You must have a question or some kind of a comment to make. I'm just curious as to what they might be, and if we can try to answer them, I'd sure like to give it a go. Or if you're interested, or hopefully we've tickled your interest to at least maybe get to Joe's place, if nothing else. I wish I were going to be around, but this is a commitment I have, a long-standing commitment I have to be at Field Day down in the Bay Area. I've been told I can't miss it, actually. What's up, John?
Well, I guess I may have a lot of puzzled looks, but definitely will try to show up at Joe's place and help him set up and, learn whatever I can, right?
It's usually, I found Field Day always to be a great learning experience, and I will go. I've been licensed for probably, I'm coming close to 20 years now licensed. I can't believe it's been that long already. I think I got my license in 2003 or 2004 timeframe. And I will go down and I will be with people who have so much more experience in so many areas that I have never touched. And I will glean little bits and pieces from them. And a few people will come up to me and ask me a question, something I can actually explain to them, and they'll walk away going, wow, I didn't know that before. Thank you. And it's a great sharing experience with people, I find. I've been working with this group since about 2005. That's one of the reasons I go back, because at one time we had maybe 6 or 8 people for Field Day, and it wasn't a big deal, but it was very important to continue the tradition. And nowadays the club has sprung back. It's 25 active people, and it's a great club to be around. But I have a lot of friends there, and they keep saying, you got to come back again next year. You got to come back again next year. So maybe next year I can get them to come up here. That would be fun too. That's about all I've got. Unless anybody's got questions for me. Melissa went off mute.
Yeah, the baby finally fell asleep, so
Oh, okay.
just talking a lot, so I was trying to not take away from the presentation. I'm planning to come to be there, Joe, in the morning on Saturday. I can come up and help set up and maybe learn a couple of things. But
Make a few contacts.
What was that? Yeah, I want to make a few contacts too. That's what I would like to do. So
Melissa, I urge you to cast all fears and doubts aside, sit down and do it. I can remember the first 3 field days I went to, I was terrified about the idea of getting on the air. And I was basically shoved in front of a radio, and they said, here, this is how you use it. Use it. And it made such a difference to me. I had so much fun doing it, and working with people on it. And you're going to go far in this hobby. So I urge you, continue, push, go for it. Don't be afraid.
Well, the only way I learn is by doing. So that is the plan.
Fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that, Melissa. You've come a long way in a short time.
Well, I've had a lot of great Elmers to help me.
Well, we all try.
I appreciate it a lot. Yeah,
definitely. But give it a go as best you can, because I think for everybody in the club, even especially for the people who are not on the call tonight, if we can get some of them out there and active again, or active for the first time, it's more than just passing the test and having a handheld or something similar on VHF and UHF. HF is a whole different game. It's different. It's fun. I'm really excited because I'm in the process of finally getting my first home HF antenna set up. It always seems to take a lot longer than I plan on initially. But I'm hoping that in the next month or so, I'll have my HF antenna up and be able to start really doing some HF work from home.
You can also actually do VHF contacts on VHF and UHF contacts on field day.
That's true.
And it used to be, I don't know if this is still true, that even if you're a 1 alpha station, so you have 1 radio, you can have a separate VHF UHF station that you can use.
No, yeah.
There used to be a special thing like that there was some special thing for VHF
yes,
UHF stations.
yes, you're right. And basically it's for alpha stations that they get a free VHF UHF radio that doesn't count towards their transmitter count.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was planning on putting I have an IC706, which has 2 meters single sideband at FM. And I was planning on hooking that up to something, to one of the many 2-meter antennas there are around here, and see if we can actually make some at least FM contacts and maybe SSB contacts on that. Because I'm up high enough so that, the 2 meters propagates down in the valley. So you should be able to talk to people in Sacramento and Modesto and places like that. There's probably a few clubs out there that you can talk to.
Yeah, just stay off the repeaters and you're in good shape.
And those clubs, it is always true that they have people sitting at those 2-meter and UHF stations that are dying for contacts. Because the guy on the 20-meter station next to them is getting like 1 contact every 20 seconds. And they're sitting there fishing around to get like 10 contacts.
Just that and stay off the national calling frequency. That's considered bad form to try to make contacts and field day on the national calling frequency. But other than that, go for all the simplexes. You'll find people out there, I suspect.
What is the national calling frequency?
Oh,
14652 on 2 meters. And I think it's 446 dot nothing on UHF or 70 centimeters. There is one on 1282 too, but I don't remember what it is.
Okay.
I don't have a radio yet that'll go up to 1.2 yet. One of these days, I guess.
Well, I just sold my last 220 radio, so because I went to Minden and sold a bunch of stuff. And
I wish I'd known you're selling a 220. I probably would have been interested in that. Oh well, because they're getting harder and harder to find.
Yeah, well, the problem is there's nobody on 220. So, I was like, what am I going to do with this radio, right?
Anybody else have anything for the good of the order before we close down tonight? Questions, comments, other topics of interest in amateur radio that they'd like to bring up?
The picnic on July 15th.
Good call, Howard. Thank you. And that's going to be in
Pine Grove Park.
Pine Grove Park.
11:30 to 2 p.m.
Are we doing a swap during that too, or just the picnic?
Well, if somebody has something they want to swap, they certainly could bring it.
Well, the last time we did this, there was a bunch of stuff that we'd gotten from a Silent Key that was brought, and some people bought some things, I think.
Yeah, that was about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
The last time I don't think we had that was the last year Mike barbecued, and that was wonderful. And I don't believe anybody brought anything to swap last year. But yeah, when Steve Guillotine was around, we had a trailer full of oddball stuff.
Yeah, I still have some stuff left over from the last time that happened that is still here. But
Mike, you look like you were going to say something just then.
No, I was scratching my elbow. I got a bug on my elbow.
Elbow scratches are acceptable. Yes, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I'm going to really try to make the picnic this year. I have to check my wife has given me about 20 items for my calendar for the next couple 3 months, and I've got to see what the heck they are. Well, if nobody has anything else, I'd like to declare the meeting closed.
Okay.
That would be fine.
That would be fine. Okay. Well, thank you all for showing up tonight for a brief appearance on and discussion on field day. And if you, like I said, if you've got questions, check the website at the ARRL. They've got a bunch of information out there, which will probably answer 99% of your questions. And if not, send an email to the board, and somebody will come back to you on that.